Mickey 17 is the latest Bong Joon Ho film, so today let's see if it's worth your time. A disposable employee is sent on a human expedition to colonize an ice world. After one copy dies, a new body is regenerated with most of his memories intact. I just finished watching all of Bong Joon Ho's films, and I thought there was no way that Mickey 17 wasn't at least good. Every single one of Bong Joon Ho's films are good. Even his worst film is still really good. And Mickey 17 is a good film. It has its flaws, but for the most part, it is a film that still is in line with a lot of Bong Joon Ho's films, where they all have these underlining messages to them, deeper themes. When you look at films like Parasite and Snowpiercer, looking at the separation of class, and then Okja with animal cruelty and consumerism. There's a lot of more of those underlying messages within Mickey 17. Not only makes it a thought-provoking film, it's also entertaining. There's a lot of messages when it does come to politics and capitalism, and also some separation of class as well, which is in line with a lot of his other films. But those messages are deep within it. But when it comes to a Bong Joon Ho film, they don't feel like they're messages that they're just really trying to push. Everything just comes very naturally when it comes to these themes. And it works so well with Mickey 17, with Robert Pattinson giving a really wild performance. If I didn't know he was in this film, and I didn't see the trailer or anything, and I just sat down and watched the movies and I closed my eyes, I just listened to his voice, I wouldn't be able to envision Robert Pattinson. He is so good within this movie. For a good half of the film, before there is that scene where there's two Mickeys in the same room, we understand that he is fearful of dying continuously. Even though he's used to it, it still is very upsetting to him. And I like the fact that they were able to give this character some development and some personality, despite it being just copies over and over again. We get to know who he is throughout all of these different versions of him, but we also get to understand that he has this deep fear of dying every single time. And it just adds that touch to this movie, where the character is constantly dying. He shouldn't fear death, but he still is. And it's just like this layer to the character that really works. Robert Pattinson gives a really good performance, and once he takes on that second Mickey that is in the same room with him, they're two copies living together, he gives a dual performance, and he does a great job of trying to separate the two different Mickeys within this film. And he's a character that didn't have much going on for him in Earth, so he took this opportunity to go to a new world, but he's being used constantly to be tested on, go on these missions where he's going to end up dying. So he takes these missions because it's his job, but we still get to know him in this film. Like I said, Robert Pattinson's really good, balancing that dread of going on these missions, just kind of slowly accepting things in a very dreadful manner. But there is some highlights to when he is in love throughout this film, and there is some moments that do excite this character. But Robert Pattinson's really good in here, and Mark Ruffalo, I don't know what to think of him. He's pretty entertaining in the film. He's like that character that he reminds me of Snowpiercer, where the richer characters are a little more over the top, and you have that separation of class within this film. You also have Toni Collette in here, and so these characters are larger than life and really about themselves. They're very self-centered characters. But Mark Ruffalo, he's wild within this film. Definitely had that entertaining aspect to that character. Now, the first half of the movie, when you learn all about these copies and the technology behind it all and the world that they live in, there's a lot of narration when it comes from Mickey's character, describing his reasoning for going to this world. And I feel like it's really more grounded. It's has that theme of class and politics, and it's just more like it feels like on a smaller scale. And then it's when they start to introduce the second copy, you get the multiples within this film, that it tries to take on a lot. That's where it starts to kind of feel like Okja, where you have these creatures that they want to study, and it starts to deal with those themes of animal cruelty within this movie, and it starts to take it in that route. But that's not such a big problem. But there's also that storyline with the multiples going on, and Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette. There's a lot that the film tackles at the end, and it kind of loses sight of its initial setup. That more grounded approach to the film, despite all these very clever ideas and very complex technology that's printing these copies of humans. It's where that second half starts to kind of branch off into more storylines, and does end up feeling a little bit chaotic and loses its focus. You start to introduce these creatures and doing the right thing with them, and much more of the politics behind everything. Not that those storylines were bad per se, it's just that I feel like it was tackling on a lot at the end. It started to lose its pacing. It started to feel like it was dragging at times. It tackled on a little too much. It felt unnecessarily long when it didn't need to be. I feel like this film could have been shortened to an extent with certain plot points throughout the film, but but the characters, the complex story, the overall look to this movie too is what holds it together. It's funny throughout. There was multiple times I did laugh when they are poking fun at like the technology behind it all, the sci-fi aspect to it, the over-the-top richer characters. There's enough jokes in here to make it worth watching, and some clever moments thrown throughout, but there's just a lot of storylines that are presented in the middle half of the film that start to weigh this movie down. But I still like this movie. It's not his best movie. It's certainly not his worst. Even his worst film is still a really good movie. So I'm really excited to do a ranking for all of the Bong Joon Ho films. I really like him as a director. After watching all of his films, I can see why he's such an acclaimed director. But I really like Mickey 17 for the sci-fi to it, and Robert Pattinson's performance. He's really good with this. So I'm so glad that he broke away from Twilight. Him and Kristen Stewart, they both went on to do some really amazing films, and I'm so glad he wasn't stuck in that tween Twilight era. I'm so glad he just branched off of that all. But if you're a fan of Bong Joon Ho's films, I do recommend checking out Mickey 17. It's not going to be the best one. Manage your expectations going into this film, but it is still a solid movie. I'm gonna go ahead and give Mickey 17 a B. Thank you guys for checking my review for Mickey 17. Have you guys seen it by chance? What'd you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.